I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Matt once again, and this is another paid request, this time from John the Zero Cool. Very nice, great friend here on YouTube. And this is one of two requests. If anyone wants to send in any paid requests, you can send them either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. It could be for pretty much any type of video. Random, review, re-review, topic, reaction, news, pretty much, again, anything, feel free. But this is for the 2000 TV movie, The Three Stooges. Now, I'm a huge fan of The Three Stooges. I grew up with them ever since I was a kid, seeing them on VHS. My aunt would have these taped out, watch them over and over again. Then throughout the years they get on cable. There's the section where Leslie Nielsen hosted these segments, and you see the Three Stooges. And then I remember being so glad when finally Columbia and Sony and such released these DVD sets so you could watch all of the shorts. But Curly, Moe, Larry, love those guys. And Shemp, I love Shemp as well. So when I heard, even as a kid, oh wow, they're doing a TV movie on ABC, I looked forward to it. And it was produced by Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson produced this because he's a big fan. That's why you would see Three Stooges in the first Lethal Weapon film. Not only him watching TV, but then, doing it, poking the bad guys. Like the first time we see, depending on which kind of Lethal Weapon, if you see the director's cut, there's a different first meeting of Riggs, at least in action, I should say. But this is one of those TV movies I did overall like. I liked it back in the day. I liked it watching it now because I thought the cast did a valiant effort. It's almost impossible to mimic those guys. I mean, the Farrelly brothers, I'm not a fan of the Farrelly Brothers movie for a number of reasons. I don't think the Three Stooges need to be put into situations where they're having a fucking baby piss fight. Holding babies, pissing at each other. I don't think you need a Three Stooges movie where you need fucking Snooky and Moe beating up Snooky. I'm like, that shit isn't needed, that shit isn't wanted. Or let's have nuns, but then underneath there is sexy nun ready to do fucking porno, it seemed. I mean, I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Funny enough, I remember there was also around this time a special on the Three Stooges. Might have been done in preparation for this. It was hosted by Woody Harrelson, and some of the people interviewed were the Farrelly brothers. I'm not sure if that's on YouTube or anywhere, but it's one of those things where, yeah, I think it was. Because he was talking about the Farrelly brothers. One of them was talking about making this film. They want to make this film. It's coming very soon. And then it wouldn't take till like another 10 or so years until it would get released. But yeah, Woody Harrelson hosted it. Now, the TV movie is directed by James Frawley, who did The Muppet Movie from the 70s. He also did Fraternity Vacation. 3 very different films. Fraternity Vacation, The Muppet Movie from the 70s. And this movie, again. But, like I said, it's very next to impossible to replicate the Three Stooges. To me, they're one of a kind. Lightning in a bottle of a team. You could try to do their stuff, but just will not have the same magic. So, there are times where the movie recreates those shorts, like Disorder in the Court, which has one of my favorite lines. He's saying, if you swear, no, but I know all the words. But I see people doing a valiant effort. It's not going to have the right timing and energy, though. But if I take that out of it, it's still interesting to see. And I do like the cast. Paul Ben-Victor as Moe. Some people did not care for his take on it. I thought it was really good. As a guy that has seen every Three Stooges short, I thought Paul Ben-Victor did a really good job as Moe. I really bought him as Moe. And Paul Ben-Victor, you see him in other stuff. He was in Jeff Fahey's Body Parts as a criminal who tossed with Jeff Fahey a couple times throughout the flick. He was, I believe, in Ben Affleck's Daredevil. I believe he's the guy who Ben Affleck hits. The guy falls on the railroad track and he can't move and subway runs over his ass. I said railroad, subway track. I believe that's him. But Paul Ben-Victor, he's been in quite a few other stuff, usually in supporting roles. One of the few times he got to be the lead, and I thought he did, like I said, a solid job. The guy who played Larry, I thought he did fine. No pun intended, just Larry fine. And Michael Chiklis, which is funny because he played Belushi in Wired, which this is a lot better movie than Wired. Less offensive than Wired. But he would also be Ben Grimm, The Thing, and the 2005 Fantastic Four film and the sequel, the TV show The Shield. I like Michael Chiklis as an actor. I thought, again, he did a pretty good job playing Curly. He definitely got the sweetness of him, and I look at him and I go, I could see Curly in him. I really can. I thought he did a good job with that. And to be fair with the Farrelly Brothers movie, the 3 that played the Three Stooges, in all fairness, I think if they had a different director and different writers than the Farrellys, I do think the Farrellys were the biggest problem with that movie. I don't think it was the actors, the more I think about it. Because I did Snooki and baby piss fights and fart jokes. Like, one of the big jokes that culminates is a fart joke. Just someone lights a match and poof. Yeah, because Three Stooges are known for their fart jokes, Farrelly Brothers. You're such huge fans, but yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going off tangent on that. I don't do that, Matt. It'll be like 30 minutes before you get back. Okay. So, Paul Ben-Victor's Moe and Michael Chiklis as Curly. I forget the guy who played Larry. John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper from Tales of the Crypt, he's in this as Shemp. I thought he did a good job. And a very, very young Joel Edgerton is in this. Because what the TV movie, I know it's 8 minutes in, I apologize. The TV movie goes from either the 1950s, which is the current time, where Moe, he runs errands for his agent, and he's with his wife, tending her garden, and this young TV executive is, hey, I want to book the Three Stooges for a show. Your stuff is getting bought for TV. They care about you. Moe's like, yeah, the Three Stooges are dead. And then it's him reminiscing flashbacks. And Joel Edgerton is the young TV, like, babyface TV executive. I'm like, is that fucking Joel Edgerton? Who was in Bright with Will Smith. He played the orc. He was in Warrior. He was in a very good one called The Gift. That's a really solid movie. And it goes through the history of the Three Stooges. Now, the thing is, when you see TV movies like this, there's always that question, what was real, what was not real, as in, was all this 100% truthful, what is shaded? You never know with this stuff, because I wasn't there. But I remember when I first saw it, and not knowing much about the history of the Three Stooges, I'm like, okay, they start off with Ted Healy doing these shows, Ted Healy being a fucking piece of shit, based on the movie, and just, it was Ted Healy, Shemp, and Moe, and Ted Healy would keep really slapping Shemp, and Shemp's like, don't slap so hard. But Ted Healy just a pompous dick. Then Larry joins the group, and it's the Three Stooges, but with Ted Healy going into getting a deal for Soup to Nuts. Some people going, it's a real stinker, but then someone's asked the Three Stooges for a 7-year contract without Ted Healy. Shemp showing a little bit of his fear of stuff, because in real life Shemp was afraid of a lot of stuff. And Shemp quits. They get Curly to join. Ultimately, they're still in this deal, doing these bits. Ultimately, get a deal with Columbia. But I will say one of my big complaints is a lot of it feels rushed. Very, very rushed. Now, whether it's because you needed a longer movie and just, if you take out the commercials, probably 80, 90 minutes. And you're going through decades and decades. So a lot of it feels rushed. So there's, for example, Shemp, very important part of the Three Stooges, doesn't go into his solo career. Doesn't really go into when he comes back. I mean, a little bit at the beginning. But like huge chunks, almost decades worth of stuff is completely either disregarded or not even mentioned, not even talked about. And so you really feel these gaps when it comes to this. Because you don't really get much of a, okay, what's the real relationship between Ted Healy and Shemp and Moe, and like, why not have moments where it's Shemp and Curly? They must have had they're brothers. You would imagine they'd have conversations, talking to one another. That never comes. There's not one scene where the Shemp and Curly share the same screen. That's a missed opportunity. Does that be interesting to hear? How was the relationship between Shemp and Curly? They're brothers. How was it between the two? How were they? How did they act with each other? You don't get that in the movie. Again, just a lot of these big gaps, and I think that really did hurt the TV movie. It really did hurt it. And it's more like, okay, if you don't know anything about the Three Stooges, and you take the film as is, I do think the actors are doing a valiant job portraying. A lot of people disagree with that, but I think they are trying. And for the most part, I liked what they did. When they're doing the shorts, they look a little bit of the Foley board, finding out the sound effects and how that could be incorporated into their shorts, into their stuff. I don't mind some of the dialogue, as long as you're laughing. There's still hope. I don't mind lines attend to that. But then there are other times I'm going, okay, did this really happen? Or are they strictly doing this for some type of dramatic effect? Where you get the idea that Curly thinks of Moe as another Ted Healy. And like when Ted Healy dies, they hear about it. Almost immediately Curly says to Moe, he's not dead. We got another Ted Healy right here. I'm like, is that really how it happened? Or are you just doing this for dramatic points? Or Curly, he gets a stroke, which he did, filming Half-Wit's Holiday. And the last thing we see of Curly is him in the hospital, Moe giving him this paper, which is the sign for advertising, rights, things of that nature. Curly's crying. And then immediately you cut to a gravesite of not just Curly, but Shemp. And I'm like, that is... Well, I guess technically it's not a decade's worth, but that's a lot of time between that. That's a lot of time between when Curly had that stroke and Shemp was doing it to when they died. That's a lot of time in between. And you're not going to talk about any of it? Now, I read somewhere that apparently they filmed the deaths of, Curly and Shemp and, some other stuff. That was cut out. It probably makes me wonder that there's probably a lot more that was cut out. But it just feels very truncated. And also, for a TV movie about the Three Stooges, why the last thing we see of Curly is Moe giving him a paper about sign off your advertise, like your rights for future, you tell me there's no other points between Moe and Curly much more emotionally satisfying between the two? You're telling me that's not the case? Really? Really? You had to pit that as the last conversation between Moe and Curly. I don't know, that just seems very shallow, or just didn't feel right. Well, what? That's the last conversation they had? No, it's not the last conversation they had, because many, many years go by, but that's the last one they showed. I went, really? Again, it's intermixed with this and the modern time in the 50s where Moe finds out that the TV, they're getting all this money from this deal and they're not getting residuals, and Moe telling his agent, listen, we deserve better, we deserve our take, come on now, this is ridiculous, there's no respect here, which is true. The Three Stooges was humongously disrespected, and the company made millions and millions and millions off of it, and the Three Stooges barely saw much of a dime from that. And even the section where they recreate the shorts, there's a point where it's just that back to back to back to back to back. I'm like, shouldn't you show a little bit and then show maybe the making of this stuff? Like, how did they really make the shorts? Okay, here's a costume, get set up. Okay, do this, do another take. No, it's just boom, here's a recreation, here's a recreation, here's a recreation, here's a recreation. How about you do one little bit of story, do one little bit of story of the making of these. No, you don't really get that depth into how these shorts were made. And that's what I mean, there's a lot lacking, there's a lot missing. Skip the rest of Shemp's years. They mentioned briefly Joe Besser, and the way they portrayed Joe Besser is that he was just a whiny asshole who doesn't want to get hit. Which is true, he didn't want to get hit with pies, but I don't know if he was that much of an asshole as he's portrayed in the prima donna as portrayed in the short. Curly Joe Dorita makes a little appearance. Really, this is one of those things that it was worth a watch to see any type of story told of the Three Stooges, of their history, of how they got started, of their livelihood. That was interesting to see. I thought the actors, like I said, they did a valiant job trying to recreate those insanely memorable portrayals that Moe, Larry, and Curly did, as well as Shemp. And like I said, I thought the actors did a good job, and it goes by. It's a short film. I mean, all the parts are on YouTube. It's like 4 parts. Each one 25 minutes, and one's like 13 minutes, so you can watch for free on YouTube. It's worth a watch as a Three Stooges fan. Again, I think you will notice a lot of those missing gaps, among other stuff, but on the flip side, when it got to the end, and it's Moe, Larry, and Curly Joe, Dorita on stage, and the crowd is, and the Three Stooges are smiling because they realize they're still remembered. There's still an audience that cares for them and wants and loves them. And there's a nice shot with the light shining on them, the camera's behind them, as you see the crowd of the stage. It's a really nice last shot that shows their dedication to the show, the business known as show business. And like I said, Michael Chiklis, I thought he captured, like I said, the sweetness of Curly. Again, I thought it's not something I love and would watch again or own, but I could watch over the Farrelly Brothers one. Because at least in this, I'm being told a little bit of information, backstory on these guys, and at least it does show you this was a family. They did care for each other. Honestly, it was interesting to see the cast of recognizable people like Michael Chiklis and John Kassir and a very young Joel Edgerton. But it felt like more of a Cliff Notes version of a Three Stooges biopic, not the whole meat and potatoes. I don't know if that makes sense. And like I said, there's certain moments I'm like, are you doing this just for more melodramatic purposes? Or is this how it really happened? But I mean, I wasn't there, so I won't know for sure. So with that said, thanks for watching, take care, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.